Good morning, everyone. Let me know in the chat when you can hear me. Neve, are you able to hear me on the audio? Great. Hi, David. Fantastic. So we're going to have to get a little creative with the camera angle today, I think, just so that you can see me doing the technique, but also possibly whilst I'm speaking as well. I might need to do a little bit of a back and forth. Morning, Dana. Morning, Pedro. Great, we're going to get started in 1 minute. So if I sit here, how's that? Perfect. Maybe a little bit wonky. Greetings, Costa Rica. Greetings from London, Pedro. Not so glamorous, but okay, it's 8 o'clock. So let's get started with our Nauli workshop. Thanks everyone for joining. I love teaching this technique because it's a little bit strange and rare in today's modern age. Don't get taught it in your typical yoga class, but it's a really fun technique that also has many benefits. I don't want to take up too much of the workshop talking about the benefits and the the surrounding theory of Nauli. So in the chat I have linked 2 blog posts that I've written. One is the benefits of Nauli, and I basically reference tons of different yogic textbooks and like the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and have referenced all of the different benefits that you can get from Nauli. And then another blog post, which is the beginner's guide to Nauli Kriya. And that is essentially a written summary of everything that we're going to cover today. So I think it is useful to hear someone and see someone do it live on a video, but just so you have that to refer back to afterwards, so that you can practice again at home. And if you go to that blog post with the beginner's guide, I'll link them again after, just in case anyone missed them. There's also a free download of a cheat sheet, if you like, so that you can keep a PDF version with a summary of each of the steps that we're going to cover today. The only one thing that I do want to mention before we get started is about contraindications. So obviously I don't know many of you personally, so I want to make sure that you know that I can't be responsible for assessing you and whether or not you're suitable to practice this technique. If you're in generally good health, then Nauli is absolutely fine, but just being mindful if you have any sort of digestive problems or gastrointestinal problems. Let me think of some examples, like irritable bowel syndrome, or reflux, or hernias and things like that. Anything that's related to kind of the abdominal organs. Just be really mindful to not practice when you're experiencing symptoms. So for example, not to share too much information, but I do experience irritable bowel syndrome from time to time, but I do practice Nauli. However, I wouldn't practice it on a day where I was feeling particularly tender in my stomach. So practice it when you're not feeling tender, and you should be fine. Of course, don't practice if you're pregnant. Yes, and hernias, if you have a hernia now, definitely not a good idea, because you'll see that it's quite a strong technique for the abdominals. So you just want to be very wary of doing it if you have those kind of stomach issues. Okay, so that's the contraindications. If you're not sure, take a look at my blog post, because I do list quite a few in there. But if you still are not sure, then just learn the technique today, and then when you can meet and talk to a qualified teacher one-to-one, somebody who can meet you in person, then you could maybe decide whether or not it's good for you. You can also ask your doctor. They're probably going to be a bit confused as to why you're doing it, but that's always an option. So yeah, why Nauli? Blog post on the benefits of Nauli, but just really quickly, the main reason and the main benefit that I've found is, or there's two really. The first is stronger digestion, or better digestion, more regular and easy. And then the second is it helps to prepare for pranayama techniques. So as you'll see, we're going to hold the breath out. We're going to externally retain the breath just for 10 seconds. So it's not a really long time, but it does help to prepare you mentally and respirationally, is that a word? It helps to prepare your respiratory system as well. For when you start to do kumbhaka, which means breath retentions in your pranayama practice. Also, number 3, let's add number 3 on, you do become much more connected to the different areas of your abdominals. So when it comes to your asana practice as well, you might find that your Uddiyana bandha is a little bit more accessible, and that can help you feel a bit lighter on your mat. So tons of benefits, but read my blog post if you want to know all of the different benefits. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to break this down into 5 stages. I think I said 4 on my email, but let's do 5 stages. So there are 2 hurdles, I think, in this process. That's the first hurdle is stage 1, which is the difficult bit but once you get past that, it's kind of smooth sailing for a while. And then there's another hurdle, which is stage 3. Yes, stage 3. So let's try and get over at least stage 1 today. I'm going to teach you all the steps, but it might take you a few days or a few weeks to build up to the full technique. It's just like it's almost like you have to grow a new neuron in order to instruct your body to move in this new way. Okay, so stage 1 is what we call Uddiyana bandha, but it's not the Uddiyana bandha that you practice in your asana practice. So Uddiyana bandha in asana is where you draw the lower part of the abdominal muscles in, so you keep this area firm. In Nauli, you have to actually release this muscle, and instead what we refer to as Uddiyana bandha is an external breath retention. So we hold the breath out, and then we suck the abdominal contents in and up using a vacuum in the thorax. You're going to understand what I mean in a second. You've probably seen it before. So we don't use the muscles. There's no using the muscles in Uddiyana bandha here. We use what we call a fake inhalation. So I'm going to talk you through the steps, then I'll show you, and then I'll talk you through again, and you can have it a go in time with me. Okay, so stage 1. Let's hope this camera angle is good enough. So the first step is to inhale deeply, just to prepare. And then you exhale all the way to empty. So you have to empty out the lungs. And you notice when you empty your lungs at the bottom of the breath, you have to squeeze the abdominals to empty the lungs. Great, so squeeze the abdominals to get all of the breath out, but then you have to completely relax the belly. If your abdominal muscles are hard, it won't work. Okay, so you inhale to prepare, exhale all the way to empty, relax the belly, and then what I'm going to do next is lock my throat. So this means it's like I swallow, I do the swallowing action, but then I lock the muscles of the throat halfway down. So it's like you close off this area so that no more breath can come in or out, and that way you're in an external breath retention, aka you're holding your breath out at the bottom of the exhale. Okay, so once I squeeze those muscles, then I'm going to perform what I call an internal gasp, which is like you're going, however, because you've locked your throat muscles, no air can come in. So you're gasping, but no air is coming in. So what that does is creates a suction with the diaphragm that's going to draw the abdominal contents up. Okay, Gregor Mailer calls it a fake inhalation. So it's like you're inhaling, but because your throat is locked, no air is coming in and everything is sucked upwards. So let me show you what that looks like. Exhale to empty, relax the belly. So let me know in the chat if you could see that clearly. So you'll notice what I didn't do, I didn't inhale. I didn't inhale to draw the belly in, I kept the breath out, and I didn't use my abdominal muscles to create that movement. I think that's hurdle number one, is realizing that instead of just using your abdominals to pull everything in, the abdominals are totally relaxed. So that movement of sucking everything in comes from locking the throat, so swallow, hold, and then internal gasp. So doing this, but when you have this lock, okay? So let me know in the chat if that makes sense. Dana, that's good. I can see you've said yes, and David, great. Okay, and if it's making sense, just type sense or something. And then I'm going to show you then I'm going to talk you through it now and see if you can have a go on your own. One more contraindication that I forgot to talk about, but hopefully it's obvious, is try not to eat before you do Nauli. So I always do it first thing in the morning before maybe I have a sip of water, but no more than that. I wouldn't have a cup of tea, I wouldn't have a cup of coffee, because for obvious reasons, it's just kind of like sloshing around in the belly and it doesn't feel good. Sometimes it can make you feel a bit nauseous. So no eating beforehand and no drinking beforehand. So if you haven't eaten or drunk, let's give it a go together. And it helps if you stand up and just kind of hunch over. So let's take an inhale to prepare. Exhale to empty. Then relax the belly. Lock the throat and perform your fake inhalation. Just release after a few seconds and then take a breather. Okay, good. So let me know how that went. If that bit is not happening yet, you need to stay on this stage until it happens. Just keep mulling over the instructions in your head. So the key things are relaxing the belly, locking the throat, holding the breath out, and performing that fake inhalation or the internal gasp. And just hold it for a few seconds. So what you don't want to do is hold it and really create any anxiety or tension in the mind, because it can be a little bit stressful if you're not used to doing breath retentions. Holding it up to 10 seconds is no problem. So any length of time between 1 and 10 seconds, and then just release. Okay, you can build up the time gradually as you get more comfortable with the technique, but for now, up to 10 seconds. Okay, good. So let's try stage 2. So once you've got stage 1, which is keeping that Uddiyana bandha switched on, we're going to add in what we call Agni, Sara, Kriya. So this is a slightly different, it's not Nauli technically, but it's a really good halfway point to get control over the different parts of the abdominal, which you're going to need in the next stages. So Agni, Sara, Kriya is basically means fanning the flame. And so what we're going to do is we're going to switch on Uddiyana bandha, just like we just did. Then we're going to, in a kind of repetition, we're going to release and switch it back on. Release, switch it back on. All without breathing. So this is all still without breathing. We're holding the breath out. So that's going to look something like this. Might need to switch camera angles. If you have more pudding in the belly, will it look different? Yeah, everyone's looks different depending on so many different things. I'm obviously really scrawny, so it's obvious when I do Uddiyana bandha. It's really obvious. I look hollow. For some people, it might just be a little bit of inward movement. I forgot to say, the way that you know when you've got it, apart from it looks kind of similar, is that you should feel a kind of inward pressure here at the base of the throat, just a gentle pressure, and it's because of that suction. So once you have that feeling in the throat, you kind of know that you're getting the right idea. Okay, so let me show you Agni, Sara, Kriya. So same again. We switch on Uddiyana bandha. So I hope you could see that. What I was doing to begin with was very slowly switching it on, pulling everything up with that internal gasp, and then just releasing Uddiyana bandha without breathing out, without inhaling, without doing anything. So to create that release, all you have to do is let go of the throat. So remember we did the swallow, and then you just have to release that to let everything go. And then you start to pick it back up again by internally gasping and then release. Internally gasping and release. And then, as you saw, I was kind of doing it slowly to begin with and then a little bit faster. Eventually it becomes more rhythmic, and maybe you even saw a little bit of a flapping-like motion in the belly. So the idea with that technique is that it's fanning the flame of Agni. So Agni is like the fire that's located here that fuels the raising of Kundalini energy amongst many other processes in the body that it governs. But in terms of energetics, it helps to draw Kundalini energy up the spine through the chakras. So the idea here is that you're fanning the flame and you're creating more heat, more strength for that purpose, for your chakra meditation. But more practically, it's super helpful for Nauli because it gives you complete control over your Uddiyana bandha. So do you want to have a go, and I'll talk you through those stages. If you're not getting stage 1 yet, try stage 1 again here. Okay, let's have a go. So when I'm standing, by the way, I've got my feet about hip distance or a little bit wider. And then it's kind of like a really relaxed pose with the back. So you don't need to be in extension, you don't need to be really hunched, it's just somewhere relaxed in the middle. So let's switch on Uddiyana bandha. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to empty. Relax the belly. Lock the throat. And then perform your internal gasp. Try again if you like. So inhale back up, take a breather, and then go back. So exhale all the way to empty. And then relax. You can let me know in the comments if that was happening for you, if stage 2 is happening. And so once you can do both of those stages, you could try doing Agni Sara for 3 times each morning. And gradually as you build up, I think I still do Agni Sara. I still do 3 rounds of 10 flaps or so in the mornings before I do Nauli. So it's a really good exercise to kind of wake up the digestion as well. And then we're going to actually work on Madhyama Nauli. So stage 3 is, I'd say, the second big hurdle. So once you get over stage 1, it's kind of easy to do stage 2. But then once you get onto stage 3, it's hard again. So Madhyama Nauli is where you start to push out the middle bit of your belly. And the way that you do that is that you start by switching on Uddiyana bandha, just like we have done before. And then without breathing out, without changing the breath at all, you flex your trunk. So that means bring the torso down towards the legs, like this. So if you go from here to here, however, you resist that movement with your hands. So you're trying to move your chest down towards your legs, but you're resisting the movement with your hands. And what that does is it pushes out the central part of your abdomen, the rectus abdominis, your six pack, and it makes a little kind of protrusion in the center of the belly, which is kind of like the classic Nauli shape. And I think this does look different for different people. So because I don't have much flesh on me there, it doesn't push out so much. Other people have a really like hollow bit at the side and like a really strong pushing out. Probably depends on the size of your rectus abdominis too. So let me show you what it looks like. I might have to change the camera angle. Let's see. Okay, Dana, cool, you got it. Pedro, I lost my breath. Just keep having a go. It will come. Okay, so we're switching on Uddiyana bandha, then we're going to Madhyama, middle Nauli. So inhale to prepare. Exhale to empty. Not sure how good that angle was because, of course, I'm doing it from the side, so you can't see that the middle bit is sticking out. Let's try if I do this. Not sure how good that camera angle was. If you look on my beginner's guide to Nauli though, I've actually embedded some videos in the text, and in those videos I had the camera underneath me so that you could really see the sticking out of the middle bit. So the key to that stage is to think about pushing your hands into your legs. So I'm like this from the side. I'm acting as if I'm trying to do this, which is engaging these muscles, the rectus abdominis, but I'm also resisting that with my hands and keeping the Uddiyana bandha switched on. So keeping the suction whilst pressing down. Okay, that's what makes the middle bit stick out. I don't think there's many more tips that I can give apart from try it every day. After you've done your Agni sara, try to get the middle bit to stick out each day, and one day it will just suddenly come and you'll be like, oh, it's there. It doesn't take so long. If you're doing it every single day, your brain starts to get the connection to the muscles. Okay, let's talk quickly about stage 4, which is left and right Nauli. So we just did middle Nauli, and now we're going to do left and right. So it's really a good practice to try and isolate the left and the right sides of the rectus, the six-pack part, because when you do the full version, the rolling, you want to have your technique, you want to have the volume of the movement to be as strong as possible. If you just have a little kind of half-hearted churn, then the effects are not going to be so strong. But if you really start to strengthen the connection to each side, then you'll notice the effects more strongly. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. It's like Madhyama Nauli, where we're coming forwards like this, only you're going to lift the left hand to stick out the right side, and then lift the right hand to stick out the left side. Okay, let's see if I can get a good angle for this. hope you can see that as I lifted my right hand and pushed down strongly on my right, the let me just get the right side pushes out. And then as you push down on the opposite side, on the left hand, and lift your right hand, the left side pushes out. And you can kind of go side to side between those movements and get the strength on each side stronger and stronger, and try to stay for one full round of your kumbhaka, of your breath retention on the left. Take a breather, try to stay for one whole round on the right. Take a breather and then do 3 rounds on each side. So you're really building up the strength and the connection to the muscles. Once you can isolate each side quite well, then you would move on to stage 5, which is full version of Nauli. So this is kind of the easy-ish bit because you already have all the connection to the muscles. Now all you have to do is put it in a sequence. So you start by doing your Madhyama, your middle Nauli. Then you can choose, you can go around one way. So you lift the left hand and then you come back to center, lift the right hand and go back to the middle. So it's kind of going sequentially round in kind of like a clock face. So you go to midnight, 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and then you go back the other way, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock. So you just slowly, and at first it can be quite segmented. So you really isolate the middle, right, 6 o'clock, left, 12, and then gradually over time it becomes more of a smooth rolling motion. So I'll try and show you in a segmented and kind of slow way. See if you can see it. If you can't see my actual belly, then just watch what I'm doing with my hands and kind of how I'm shifting my weight. Okay. So inhale to prepare. Exhale to empty. Could you guys see that at all? I would go here, but I think it's going to disappear if I... So side is probably better. Let's try the other side. So just at the end there, I tried to do a little bit of a smoother circle. So as you become more in tune with all those different positions, you just start to make it into a circle. Honestly, it just becomes obvious. It's kind of like a little bit of a hip rotation movement to help with pushing the muscles out, and you just kind of feel into it. Once you've got Madhyama Nauli, you'll be fine. You'll really get the left and the right sides. Just make sure that you work on isolating the different sections so that when it comes to doing the churning, the circle, the volume of the circle is big rather than just kind of like, it looks cool, but it's not actually doing anything. And then you really feel at the end that you've had a massage almost with your abdominal muscles. Let's do some Q&A. So you guys, if you have any questions that I haven't covered here, just put them in the comments now. Let's see if I can get a few done. I'm teaching a different class at 7:30, so we've just got a few minutes. If I don't get to them, I'll email you after. And also definitely check out my blog post because there's tons of information there, and like I said, little snippets of video to show you each section much more clearly. Great. So Neve has finally got to stage 1. Good stuff. So good, Neve. Carry on doing it every morning and your connection to it is going to get stronger. Your next challenge is to do your stage 2, which is releasing and holding, which is Agni, Sara, Kriya. Good stuff. Can I do the technique in lotus posture? Pedro, yes, you can. That tends to be a little harder. because you can't hunch as much when you're in lotus pose, but eventually the idea is you will use this technique, you'll use Uddiyana bandha at least, the sucking, you'll use that in your pranayama practice, so you probably will be in lotus pose then. But if you can achieve it in lotus pose, then go for it. Usually harder, so try standing first if it's not happening. This from your previous... Thanks, I had already learned this from your previous blogs. Great, David. Okay, good. So you've got the technique already? Good stuff. I need to have you as my model next time then. And yes, as I say, guys, if I missed anything, then just... okay, Dana, you don't feel the base of neck pressure, but you do feel vacuum. Yeah, that's probably fine. Maybe the pressure comes if you increase the strength. But don't go overboard. If you think you can see that it looks hollow and you feel like you're locking your throat and there's no pressure, that's okay. Maybe send me a photo if you like, and I'll try and, or a little video, and then I know if you're getting the right, you know, not using your abdominals to lift, but actually using the suction. Okay, I'm gonna have to sign off now, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, any questions, fire away, give me an email if I missed anything, and join me in 1 minute for Ashtanga Yoga. We're doing the half primary series, so I'm just going to switch streams and I'll see some of you there. Thanks everyone.